A Triumph of Surgery. About the author. James Herriot was a British veterinary surgeon and writer. He is best known for writing a series of 8 books set in the 1930s-50s Yorkshire Dales about animals and their owners. Dr. James Herriot, the narrator, while driving down the lane, saw Mrs. Pumphrey with her pet dog Tricky. Being a veterinary surgeon, he felt concerned and stopped his car. He was shocked to see overweight Tricky, who was struggling to take proper steps while walking and was looking like a bloated sausage. Mrs. Pumphrey innocently tried to explain the condition of her dog. She said her dog lacked energy and was suffering from malnutrition. So, to boost his energy, she was giving Tricky little extra to eat like malt, cod liver oil and Horlicks between meals. She was also unable to stop herself from feeding her pet cream cakes and chocolates as recommended by him because Tricky loved eating them. The narrator understood the real reason behind Tricky's poor health and greed for food. The dog was being excessively pampered by his rich mistress, who could not resist giving food to Tricky at odd hours. She also gave reasons and excuses that why she was not able to give Tricky plenty of exercise except little walks in the evening. Hearing this, the vet strictly advised Mrs. Pumphrey to cut down his food immediately and give him enough exercise. Otherwise, her pet dog would become seriously ill. Mrs. Pumphrey half-heartedly gave approval to follow the advice given by the vet and walked off with her dog. As predicted, within few days frantic call came from Mrs. Pumphrey that Tricky had stopped eating. He was panting for breath and had bouts of vomiting. Mr. Herriot had already anticipated the problem of Tricky and was ready with a plan in advance. Without wasting time, he was there to rescue the dog. He asked Mrs. Pumphrey to hospitalize Tricky for about a fortnight without any delay, if she wanted him to be cured. Listening this, she almost swooned, but later for the well-being of her pet, she allowed him to do so. The vet wrapped the poor dog in a blanket and carried him to his car. The entire staff of the house was roused by the mistress to pack Tricky's favorite cushions, toys, serving bowls, which may be needed by her pet during hospitalization. Narrator very well knew that these requirements were unnecessary for the dog in the course of surgery, so he drove away with Tricky without carrying these stuffs, leaving behind Mrs. Pumphrey and her staff in tears. surgery, the household dog surrounded Tricky out of curiosity, but when he didn't show any interest in them and lay down motionless, they ignored him and went away. Narrator made a comfortable bed for Tricky next to the other dogs. He didn't give him anything to eat for 2 days except plenty of water to resolve his health problem. On third day, Tricky showed some signs of recovery. He whimpered on hearing other dogs playing in the yard and trotted out to be with them. At feeding time, he examined the bowls and licked them after all the dogs had finished eating. This showed that he was regaining his appetite. Without any medicinal treatment, Tricky's health started improving. He started taking interest in other activities of the dogs and enjoyed becoming the accepted member of the gang of the dogs. Mrs. Pumphrey used to call the vet several times a day to know about her dog's health. She was happy when the narrator informed that her dog's health was improving and he was out of danger. Hearing this, out of her love for dogs, she started sending nutritional supplement of food items like fresh eggs, bottles of wine and brandy regularly to the surgery for his speedy recovery. Dr. Herright knew that these food items were of no need for Tricky. Therefore, he and his partner relished on these goodies. But soon narrator realized that he shouldn't shatter the trust of Mrs. Pumphrey on him, and he overcame the temptation of appetizing food and keeping Tricky in his custody. Narrator very well knew Mrs. Pumphrey was anxiously waiting to meet her pet dog. So, without any delay, he informed her to collect Tricky from surgery as her dog had completely regained his health. Within no time, Mrs. Pumphrey was at the surgery in her gleaming black car to collect her pet dog Tricky. Dr. James came out carrying Tricky in his arms. He was no longer listless and lethargic. On seeing his owner, Tricky jumped out of the doctor's arms and sailed into Mrs. Pumphrey's lap excitedly. Finding her dog completely recovered, she was overwhelmed with happy emotions. Tears of joy rolled out of her eyes. Before bidding farewell to the vet, she thanked him and said that her dog's recovery was triumph of surgery. In the end, we can say Mrs. Pumphrey's unduly kind attitude and over-indulgent nature was responsible for Tricky's discomfort and ailment. Moral: excess of everything is bad.